Okay, video part 2 on the making of the motor. Basically, this is the ring that we would have previously cut, kind of how we went over on the last video. And then what we're going to do is drill all of our holes. So after we get all of our holes drilled, then it's going to look like this, in this configuration. Okay, we have our axis hole, and we have our coil holes, 3 per side. Once we get to that point, remember this outer edge is going to be pretty rough at this point. Now you can pre-sand this before you do your holes, or you can sand it afterwards. I recommend pre-sanding, but in this case in the video we're going to sand it afterwards. But so we would have our holes drilled. Now how that works is so that we can accept our axle or our shaft for our motor that comes through here. So you can see how that line corresponds with our shaft line. And then these would be our coils that intersect with those lines. So you can see how all of those go together. And then our rotor sits in the middle of that, just like that. Okay? So once we get all of that cut, then we're actually ready to go ahead and sand this up. Now I want to show you a couple of tricks to that. It's something I use all the time, especially on plastics. Be really careful with your plastics when you're cutting them. You want to use a Teflon or a silicone based spray when you're cutting plastic, and that keeps it cool and also lubricates your blades so that the plastic doesn't stick to the blade, because the blades can get hot. You don't want to get your plastic overheated. If you do, it's going to melt, and that's going to cause a problem with your plastic. Of course, we don't want melted plastic. So let me go ahead and show you. I don't use a belt sander or palm sander or anything for that because I find that it gets it too hot. So what I use is this little device here. I know it looks kind of makeshift, but basically it's a couple of components. One is just like a basic peel and stick floor tile that you can get at your home improvement store. Okay? You're going to peel that backing off, and it's very sticky back here on the back. It's really good for our use. It's also very flat. Makes a great tabletop usage part. So what that's going to do is this back here is the back of our tile. We use some basic duct tape. Doesn't matter what brand. Just some basic duct tape to tape your tile to your tabletop. That way you're not going to mar up or scratch up your tabletop if you're using a tabletop that you've got to preserve. Then this piece of sandpaper is stuck really well, and it's flat, it's straight, it's level, and it gives you a big broad work surface that's going to stay attached to everything that you have. Now, I don't usually talk about brand names. However, for sandpaper I would like to discuss a brand name. This is the sandpaper that I do like to use. It is from Norton. It works really well on plastic. I've never had a problem with it gumming up or anything with the plastic. So you want to check that out. It's the only brand name that I'm going to recommend here. I am not a spokesperson, sponsor, or a paid advertiser for this brand. It's just one that I find that works well. You can use any brand of sandpaper that you would like. It does have a very good backing on it. It's a very strong paper, so it won't tear or shred very easily at all, and that's a good thing to use. Okay, so basically you would have your ring, and basically all you're going to do is put your hand on the ring and go in a circular motion like this. I would use both hands on it. Of course I'm holding one with the camera, but you're going to sand in this manner. Okay, and as you sand, you can see I'm not putting too much force down, and then you're going to want to flip it over and sand the other side. Okay, you want to start out with a 50 grit, move to a 60, move to an 80, a 100, a 120, a 150, and then a 200 to get it down to a nice finished edge. And that way there's no scratches or scrapes or anything inside of it, and it's a very nice finished product. Okay. As far as the sandpaper goes, make sure you have a vacuum with a dust collection system. Just any type of vacuum that you can vacuum up the dust. It's going to be very, very fine. Make sure you wear a mask, proper protective equipment while you're doing it, safety glasses, a face shield, or and also dust mask and earplugs as well for any of the equipment. We want to make sure that you stay safe. It was commented on one of my other videos that I hurt myself on my knuckle. Yes, but that was pruning trees. That wasn't actually making any products. So, but that's how you would sand this. And again, what you're going for is a very straight and flat surface. So if you look here, you can see where it meets the tabletop, and you will see that it's extremely flat. I'm going to turn this around so that you can see that there's no variations, there's no differences in height. You want your rings to be as perfect as you can get them. Any part of this motor, if it's off by just a little bit at any point, then you can have some problems with it going out of balance and out of center. So that basically shows you how to build the rings for the motor, and I hope that that was very informative, and that's pretty much everything that I have on this part of it. That takes you through the whole process of making the outer rings. You'll notice that this is a prototype ring here. The thickness is a lot different here than the actual rings that I'm going to use. You can see the profile here. This is the top one, that's the bottom one. Okay, so this ring right here gets me in closer to my rotor so that my coils are as close to the rotor magnets as possible. And I'm just waiting for a bit from my CNC machine so that I can drill all these holes. When you drill these holes, the best thing to do is to make you a little jig that you can set this into, and then use a drill guide and set the first hole, rotate it over, set this on a pin shaft. That way it aligns you correctly with your vertical, so they are exactly 90 degrees from each other. And go ahead and drill your next hole. And then spin it around to your next mark, drill that hole, spin it around, set it over the shaft, drill your next hole. And consecutively do that till you have all your holes all the way around drilled. And that way they are exactly parallel to each other, because in this design they need to be exactly parallel. And that's pretty much it. Everything that I've went over for this. Anyone should have the basic tools, which is like a skill saw, table saw, drill, tape measure, marking device, a pen or something to write on your plastic. Oh, good rule of thumb. On any of the markings that you have on your plastic, a good way to get rid of those if you didn't sand them off is to just take some isopropyl alcohol or something like that, or just a rubbing alcohol, and rub that across your plastic. That'll clean your plastic up completely, leave no residues or dust, and it removes all the oils or cutting fluids off of your plastic. Gets them ready so that you can utilize them. I don't recommend putting them in water or any type of other solvents, because some plastics have an ability to absorb waters, and it can actually make the plastic softer, or it can warp the plastic even sitting in just water, depending on the type of plastic that you're using. If you're using Teflon, Nicron, or a type of acrylic or PVC, you're not going to have an issue with the water penetrating. But again, you have to wait for water to dry off of it before you can do your next step, where alcohol is almost immediate. Just a few key points. Hope you enjoyed the videos. Give me any feedback that you would like to. Send it to my email address, YouTube the post as comment, or you can visit us on the TEEP forum. I'm a resident there all the time. I'm there just about every day. So if you have any questions, or if you have any feedback or helpful tips for me, please let me know. Thank you again, and that concludes the video on some of the procedures to actually make the parts using basic tools. Have a great day. Thank you.